Right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. As I always like to start off press conferences by saying that our press certainly a valued member of our community. It takes everyone to prevent crime, keep people safe. That includes giving people the information that they need in order to participate in our own public safety. You're a vital part of that, and thank you for taking time to be here today. My name is Shon Barnes, Shonbarnes. I have the pleasure of being the Chief of Police for the Madison Police Department. The purpose of this conference today is to give you some updates on the weekend that we had and also give the mayor an opportunity to share some thoughts on public safety with the Madison community. Now, as Chief of Police, I have to share in the times in which we have great successes like we've had thus far this year, but I also have a responsibility to inform the public when things are not going so well. And I'm going to do that with you today as a matter of being open and transparent with the Madison community. We did have a very violent weekend this weekend here in Madison. But my promise to you is this: your department is using every available resource to solve these shootings. The violence in Madison is not acceptable, and it is not the Madison that we all know and love. Our most recent incident occurred late last night. Officers were dispatched to Andrew Way around 10:45 p.m. They arrived to find a man suffering from a gunshot wound. Officers quickly began treating his life-threatening injuries, and he was taken to an area hospital where he currently remains in critical condition. Shortly thereafter, another man arrived at the hospital with a graze wound. This person has since been treated and released for his injuries. A group of around 10 people were gathered on Andrew Way when someone drove by and began shooting. As the shots were fired from this vehicle, someone in the group returned fire. Around 20 shell casings were recovered in this incident alone. 3 vehicles were also struck by bullets. The motive for this shooting is unknown. No guns were recovered and no arrests have been made in this case at this time. Earlier on Sunday, and initially the reason that we asked you to be here today as an update, our department responded to a mass shooting at the Lux Apartments. We've had 2 more people come forward to report injuries. As of today, 12 people were injured. 10 of these victims suffered a gunshot or graze wound. 1 was injured by broken glass, and another suffered a shoulder injury while trying to escape the fray. At least 2 of the victims remain in the hospital, and we will need to work with staff and local hospitals if you want specific conditions on their updates. The shooting occurred as 25 people were partying on the rooftop of the Lux. There were more than 25 people. We've learned since then that this was what we're calling a sneak bash, meaning it was an unauthorized party in a private space. We've been asking if this was a birthday or a graduation party. We do not know at this time, and detectives are still trying to determine the actual origin of this party. With social media, things can spread and turn so quickly, it takes us some time to determine what the actual origin was of this particular unauthorized event. A motive for this shooting is still currently unknown. Our officers and detectives and investigators are looking at digital evidence in this case. At this time, we will not be publicly identifying a suspect or a person of interest, as we do not want to jeopardize any leads in this case. No arrests have been made in this case at this time. Since 2016, we have responded to 453 calls for service at the Lux. The number of incidents includes this call from over the weekend as well. In addition, we're still searching for people who shot and killed a man early Friday morning in Madison. Around 50 shell casings were recovered along the 1300 block of Williamson Street. We know that there was a fight at the Crystal Corner Bar when people left the building. They began firing shots while our victim was walking down Williamson Street. a 27-year-old man died from his injuries. Our violent crime unit is overseeing all of these investigations, and we've asked every detective in our department to assist, including our gang neighborhood crime abatement team. This group is currently meeting right now as we speak to go over a specific list of tasks intended to bring the person or persons involved in all of these incidents to justice. As Chief of Police, I want to reassure the public that we are actively investigating the recent incidents of gun violence and are committed to ensuring the safety and security of our community. We are working tirelessly to identify and apprehend those responsible for these senseless acts, and we will not rest until justice is served. I urge anyone with information to come forward and assist our efforts to bring those responsible to justice. Together, and only together, can we make Madison a safer city. At this time, I would like to invite Mayor Satya Rhodes-Conway to this.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief, and thank you all for being here. An otherwise beautiful weekend in Madison was marred by 3 unacceptable acts of gun violence in our public spaces. I am particularly disturbed by the number of young people that were involved in these incidents. As a community, we must refuse to become complacent with any loss of life or injury that's needlessly inflicted within our city. I want to especially thank the Madison Police Department, Madison Fire Department for their service this weekend. It was a long weekend, late nights, long hours. I want to thank Chief Barnes, Fire Chief Carbon, and I also want to thank our violence prevention unit out of Public Health Madison-Dane County, which responded over the weekend as well. Our public safety employees and first responders acted rapidly and professionally. As you know, on Friday night, a 27-year-old man's life was tragically cut short after being shot in what we believe is a targeted incident when someone responded to an interpersonal conflict by pulling out a gun. On Sunday morning, someone chose to bring a gun to a party and use it, resulting in at least 10 people being shot and wounded. And again last night, 2 more people were shot and wounded because someone chose to use a gun. Guns are not a solution to conflict, and we must stop normalizing their use and their accessibility. The families impacted by these events will never be the same. Our community must come together to stop the cycle of violence that perpetuates these types of crimes. As you heard, the folks in the Madison Police Department are actively investigating these incidents, and you know they will keep updating you as more details emerge. And I have confidence that they will find the people that are responsible and they will bring them to justice. Before Friday, Madison had no reports of shots fired for 5 straight weeks. That should be the norm in Madison. This is a moment for us to refocus our efforts on ensuring that the circumstances that lead to gun violence don't happen in the first place. It should not be easier to buy a gun than to cast a ballot. Our state lawmakers need to put aside partisan politics and enact common sense gun safety measures that are supported by an overwhelming number of Wisconsinites. The legislature's decade of inaction is irresponsible and ignores pleas from communities around the state to keep our residents safe. The state legislature's refusal to prioritize gun violence prevention makes it very challenging from mayors across Wisconsin to protect our cities. We need them to help us keep our communities safe. In the meantime, we need Madisonians to help us keep our communities safe. If you have any information about any of these events, please contact Madison Area Crime Stoppers. You can share information anonymously, or you can share it directly with the police department. And please, help everyone in our community understand that guns are not a solution to conflict. We all have to find other ways to resolve interpersonal conflicts that don't end in someone dying. Thank you again for being here today. Chief?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. We're entertaining a few questions.
Chief Barnes, do you have any reason to believe any of these incidents are connected?
We're looking at that as an angle. However, we have no information to suggest that at this time.
Do we know if the Lux apartment shooting was a high school party? I know that you said you can't.
We know that many of the people attending the party were high school age. However, the unofficial organizer, if you will, has yet to be identified positively by our department.
Chief, the casings that were found at last night's shooting, were those all from the same weapon?
I'm not sure about that. I can certainly get you an answer to that. I'm not sure if they're from the same weapon or not.
You said there's been several calls to the Lux apartment since 2016. What's going to be done to be held the building accountable?
Well, it's already being done. Immediately, our captain of the Central Division was in contact with the management team. They're working through crime prevention, through environmental design ideas. There's a meeting that's already been scheduled with the management. We're talking about surveillance cameras and access and things of that nature to the building as well. So immediately, that was being done by our Central Command unit. We call it problem solving. They started that process almost immediately. Now, some of those calls are medical in nature, so I don't want people to think that there were 453. There were all disturbances. Some of them could have been 911 hang-ups and things of that nature, but I want to put that in perspective.
It's obvious that there's guns in the community. What is your department doing or has been doing in the past to promote gun safety?
Yeah, you know, there's guns in the community. There's guns in America. The Small Arms Survey out of Switzerland estimates that there are 353 million guns in America. And Madison, quite frankly, as lovely as the city is, we're not immune to that. You know, we're not special in that we have just as much access to guns as everyone else. But, you know, our officers, I think, do a great job making sure that those persons who are not responsible gun owners and who are convicted felons and things of that nature, that we go after those people when they have warrants and to ensure that we can get those guns off the street. We take a lot of guns off the street. I think last year about 353 guns were taken, and there's 365 days of the year. So I think they're doing an excellent job, almost achieving a one gun per day hit rate of illegal guns that should not be on the street. And then we also get a lot of people who safely surrender their weapons, people who are having mental health challenges and things of that nature, and elderly people who will come, and that's not included in that number, by the way, that will come and surrender weapons as well. But the message is simple. You have to be responsible gun owners. A lot of people who are into criminality, they are stealing their guns or are getting them from people who are not being responsible with them. You know, you've heard me say this before, cars make horrible gun safes. Don't leave your gun in your car where someone can break in that car and look for the easy places, glove compartments and under seats and things of that nature. Our officers who work extremely hard have even recovered weapons that were left on front seats and floorboards of vehicles because the person forgot. And they went out and they went on their business, and the officer comes by and he sees that in plain view, giving him a reason, a rationale to recover that weapon. But it starts with people being responsible for these tools of destruction and understanding that it does take a certain amount of respect for that particular weapon if you have it. Lock it up, take it in your home, make sure that you store it properly, make sure you use gun locks, and make sure you are doing the safety things that you should be doing when you're having something like this. You should not be taking weapons for granted. Because they could end up in the hands of the wrong people and someone could get hurt.
Do you know if these shootings by chance could be gang related?
I don't know that now as a motive. Again, we're still trying to determine what the motive. We have 3 separate incidents. We don't believe that they're all linked or related at this time, but that's why we work the way we work. I just left a briefing at 10 a.m. that's still going on now with 3 groups of detectives who are working 3 separate incidents, but they're doing it together. They're going over suspect lists. They're looking at link analysis. Our crime analysis unit, I don't talk about them a lot, but when they are involved in this and they're trying to connect the dots to see if anyone was at the same place or what their business may have been involved in this. As you can imagine, with the incident at the Lux, there's a lot of evidence to go through, and they have a plan for that. They're going to go through every piece of it. And we often say no stone left unturned. You heard that before. I can tell you with this police department, that's the truth. Okay? Thank you so much.